Happy Wine Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to Wine Wednesday with the Seahorse Whisperer. I'm Holly. We've got my friend Ray here, and Kelly's on the way. She's still struggling tonight with her old computer, so she's going to be a little late, and I'm going to try to run things as best I can on my end. I'm still learning. So you guys will have to kind of give me a break. I might be slow at figuring out how to do stuff. But to start out with, I don't
Well, Kelly
have.
better get here pretty soon because I was told you should never drink alone. And being that I'm not,
Oh, well, hopefully someone in the audience is drinking with me. I'm just drinking some white Zinfandel on ice, which I guess a lot of people say you shouldn't drink wine on ice, but I do. It's summer, it's hot, and
I figure you do
it's
what
a
you
light
want. What makes you
wine.
happy is what you should do.
Thank you, Ray. I agree with you. So I don't have much news this week. My seahorses are all doing fine. And Ray, you still have one seahorse, right?
No, no, that was
No.
no, that was about 7 weeks ago. It passed.
Oh, okay. So no more seahorses in your house, huh?
No, that was the last one. That
Ah. Well, I've got seven left. I've got five in one tank and two in the other. And they all seem to be doing great. It seems like the two that are in the one tank are bonding more with me now since they're the only ones. I see Kelly, so I'll let her in.
Hey,
Hi,
everybody.
Kelly. Welcome. You're just in time. I just started.
Awesome. Well, happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Again, haven't fixed the wine glass issue and haven't fixed the computer issue. So, big cheers and thanks to Holly for starting and basically running this stream while I get my computer fixed and just, of course, to help out with the community. I don't want to interrupt you, what you were saying. So, go ahead. And then I've got something to say when you're done. But welcome, everybody.
Perfect. I
Okay,
was just saying, I don't have much to say this week. My seahorses are doing fine. I still have the five in one tank, two in the other. And I was just starting to say that the two that are left in the 55-gallon are paying a lot more attention to me now, I've noticed, since there's less seahorses. They're starting to try to play games with me and manipulate me.
like
so
what me?
so that's interesting. But other than that, yeah. So what have you got for us?
Well, first of all, Zen Ginger said, Holly, you should get some of the freezer wine glasses that have the layer of frozen liquid that keeps the wine
Oh
frosted
yeah.
down.
maybe she
And
likes it
hello, Tia.
watered down.
Good to see you. What, Ray?
Yeah.
Maybe she likes it watered down.
Yeah, actually, I kind of do because I'm not a wine drinker. I rarely drink wine.
I
And
hate wine.
actually, I kind of like it with a little something else. So 7 Up or, yeah, some ice in it, something.
See, and I'm sipping on my Chardonnay, and I probably should water it down more than I do, right? So we all have our
When
thoughts.
I was drinking, I never did find a wine that I liked.
Really?
Never.
See, okay, totally not
Well,
Seahorse.
Southern Comfort, I sure took a liking to that. And white rum.
Southern cut. Well, you're a guy. Like my guy likes all the brown liquids too. He's
I
not
like white
drink.
rum too. I drink Bacardi Silver is
The
my
only
favorite.
time I ever really got into any of the brown liquids was when I went to the MBI, which is Marine Breeding Initiative. See, we're coming back to seahorse focused with Underwood. And we went because Dan was a speaker at this MBI event, and I went to learn and to do some contests and some seahorse whisperer stuff. And he liked, or I don't know what he likes now, guys, but what he had then was it was something honey bourbon. That's what it was. You guys know what that is? What I'm talking
Yes.
about?
Nope.
So it was brown honey bourbon, and I was like, "Oh, Dan, I don't drink brown. I just can't drink brown." And he was like, "Try this. It's smooth." And I was like, "Oh, that is smooth." And can I just say we were late to the event the next day? But anyways, back to wine and then back to seahorses. I see Zen likes Prosecco. I can never say that right. Did I say that right?
Prosecco? I think it's Prosecco.
Okay.
Maybe.
Well, I know what you're talking about though, because that if you watch probably 20 or 30 Wine Wednesdays ago, I had my watermelon drink, and it was literally something that I can't. Somebody told me, and basically it's that prosecco, however you say it, which is kind of like a champagne, and but it's dry, right? So I couldn't drink it straight, but you throw watermelon in it, and the watermelon like soaks up the alcohol, and the alcohol soaks up the watermelon, and it's delish. I love that
I
drink.
remember you drinking those, and that blackberry wine Tia is talking about. I bet that's good.
But see,
I like blackberry.
well, and I see Anna says,
And she
honey
makes
wild
honey
turkey.
bourbon. Oh wow.
There's
I was
probably a
gonna
lot of
say-
drinks around now that didn't exist when I used to drink.
Hang on, I got to yell at significant. He's running water, and I'm like, I don't have AirPods. I don't have my computer. Please shush.
Well, we didn't
So
hear the water
anyways,
anyway.
Yeah, I couldn't hear anything. Yeah.
Well, good. I guess the computer's doing its job. This old puppy. Anyways, what I was gonna say is with wine, I was never a wine drinker either. I was a vodka girl, but we'll not talk that stuff. So my sister is the one, because I go to family occasions and stuff, and she is like a serious red wine drinker, and she was like, "No, Kelly, you don't get it." And I've heard of wine pairing and all that stuff, but that's what got me into it, is with food, right? So I don't usually just sit around and sip on wine unless it's Wine Wednesday. And maybe I do, but I don't all the time. My significant other was like, yeah, right. So maybe I do sip on wine occasionally, but it's usually with food, right? So coming back to fish related, not really in our tanks, but I have found this new dish that they make at a grocery store in my area called Myers, and it's called pinwheels, and what it is it's salmon and it's crab stuffing stuff, right? So it's crab and like cheese and whatever. And I try to not eat that, stuffing kind of stuff, but this is amazing. But what's funny is I'm also a sauce girl. I'm going to stop rambling about my taste here in just a second, I promise. It's coming back to wine. So with this meal, I have to have both white wine, a Chardonnay, and I like the cheap Chardonnays or the buttery Chardonnays. The buttery Chardonnays are really good, especially with the salmon dish. And I have to have Chardonnay so that I can have a bite of the salmon and crab mix with lemon, because that just tastes, it like influences the taste. It changes the way it tastes in your mouth. People think you probably think I'm nuts. I swear it does. Try it. Try eating a fish dish with a Chardonnay. And you can't hear me, Ray?
No, I can hear you, but it's cracking up, staticky.
You got static on your end. I can hear you fine though, but it's staticky.
Sorry, guys. It's probably this old computer. I'll try
It wasn't like that to start.
Okay.
I don't know, 30 seconds ago.
I think I know what it is. Hang on.
Up. Well, good thing you do.
Is that better?
Yes.
No more cracking. Okay. So let me finish my rambling story, and then we'll get back to seahorses. So anyways, with this salmon and crab dish, I have to have white wine, Chardonnay, so that I can have a bite with lemon and sip my Chardonnay. And then I have to have a Pinot Noir red wine that's like not, like I don't like the super, super dry. So Pinot Noir is a red wine that's like not Cabernet. It's not, it doesn't give you that aftertaste of, dry mouth. It's Pinot Noir is really light, and it's not sweet or anything, but it's, anyways. So I have to have Chardonnay to eat with the lemon and salmon, and then I have to have the Pinot Noir to eat with the cocktail sauce and tartar sauce and salmon, because it's different tastes. And my significant other and kids will be like, "The hell is wrong with you?" But it's all about the taste. I'm telling you guys, try this. Try looking it up next time you make a meal, and just see what wine goes with it, and you'll be amazed. It like enhances the flavors and makes it okay. All right, I'm gonna stop talking wine now. And thank you guys for telling me the audio was messed up. It's this older computer, and I don't know the settings. But getting back to seahorses, where were we on seahorses? I got totally distracted by my wine.
Oh, I was just saying the two that I have left in the one tank are manipulating me now, trying to they're starting games. I guess because it's just the two of them. Maybe they're they're trying to bring me into their circle and take advantage of me.
So what do you mean
Why
by
did
take
they-
advantage of you? What are they doing?
Well, I'll tell you that what happened was, I gave Sadie some birthday gifts. I gave her that bubbling reef and I gave her a red flower. And since those things went in the tank, both the seahorses want to hang out there all day. But that's not where their feeding stations are. Where I fed them was on the opposite side of the tank. And they didn't want to go there anymore to eat. So I added another little shell for Dandy to eat out of because remember, he can't swim up to a feeding station. So I started feeding him there, and that's fine. But sometimes he'll still go back across the tank and want to eat at his old dish. Now, what Sadie has been doing is she wants to use all three dishes. So she'll park herself at one, usually where Dandy's going to eat. And I put the food in the dish, and then she'll eat a couple bites and then act like she doesn't want to eat. And at first I was thinking, uh-oh, what's going on? Something's wrong with her. But what she would do then is she would leave and go to another dish
Mm-hmm.
and look in it and then look at me like, Mom, this one's empty. So she won the battle and I put food in the other dish. So what she'll do is she always wants to finish whatever Dandy has first because she knows he can't get to some of the other places.
Right.
So she'll make me put food in the other dishes, go back and eat the food in his dish, and then come and finish what's in the other dish.
Oh, geez. They are playing you. I do have a question, though. Actually, so first I want to say, Ray, we never ask questions we don't know the answers to. I'm not really sure what that means either, but I don't think we want to know. So moving past that, I would say, Ray, the actual question for you is, as seahorses get older, because you've kept them for so long and, you've kept them up until old age, do they get less active, eat less? Is it normal for them their feeding habits to change?
Oh, I can't say about feeding habits, but as far as changing, some do and some don't.
Yeah.
Like even within the same species that I had, the abdominalis, some of them as they got older became less active and others didn't.
Right.
I have no idea why. But I can't tell you about whether they ate more food or less food or whatever, but never even thought about checking it out to see.
Well, I personally feel like, hey, Chris, Carrie, I'm going to answer your question. I think you messaged me too here in a minute. But I feel like, and Chris, you might know too, Chris Carey has worked with seahorses for years and extensively. So Chris, the question I asked Ray was, do seahorses as they age, as they get older, once they get to the point where they're not really breeding anymore, well, first of all, what age would you say that would be? Like 7, 8, where do you, 4, 5, what age do you think they stop breeding and being interested
slow
in
down if they do?
It matters whether they're yours or not.
Why?
Well, yours haven't even started.
Well, that's true. Right? Quit throwing it up in my face, dang it. But I was going to say, like, do they, in your opinion, Chris, do they not just slow down on breeding, but also eating? Because I did notice, like, when I had, hundreds of adolescents and fry, they were raring to go, and then I would give them to homes or sell them or whatever. So I never got to see them grow up. But my first pair that I kept forever and ever and ever until I let my tank go, after the passing of my mother, I noticed them when they stopped breeding. They didn't eat as much. They weren't as aggressive in feeding habits. I'm just curious if that was just my personal experience or if you expect that. Ray, Anna wants to know, what's the oldest seahorse you've owned?
What was that?
How old is the oldest seahorse you've ever kept?
Oh, I don't even remember now.
And you said I'm staticky again, Holly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna try to fix
Thank
this.
The last one it just turned 8 years old the month that it passed there in June. That last ab. So that was the longest I kept any abs, but the longest was reed-eye. And that's probably a decade and a half ago. And I don't remember for sure now. I know it was older than this. I didn't hit the 10 years, I don't think. But I think I came close to it. But with Erectus, the longest was one at 9 years, and that was the only one. The other ones that I had at the same time, I think, never even made it to 7.
I'm glad that you said that though, Ray, because we talk about, and there's articles about the fact that, we personally know a woman who kept a seahorse alive to 14. But when people hear that and they've kept their seahorse for 7 years and then it quietly passes away, they think they did something wrong. And that's not necessarily true. Number one, if you keep a seahorse alive for 7 years, they lived a lot longer than they probably would have in the ocean, first off. And second off, I think that's more average, like 5 to 7 years. You can keep them to 14 if you're just an excellent keeper and you do everything right, or they're just a really healthy specimen, but I just don't want people beating themselves up. I think the oldest seahorse that I ever kept did hit 9. And then frankly, I've told you guys the story, I won't repeat it, but I lost my mother and I kind of let the tank go. And so I don't know if I lost that seahorse due to old age or because I was neglecting the tank, just full disclosure here. But I did get him to 9. And I think the female was actually 10. So you can do it, but that was after a lot of trial and error and a lot of mistakes, right? So just kind of throwing that out there. And what was the other thing I was going to ask? Ray, in your experience keeping different species, has any lived longer than the other? And Chris, that question's to you.
Well, it's hard to say that because some of the ones that I kept were early in my seahorse keeping era, and I didn't know the things that I knew later on, like the Angustus and the first Barbary. They were quite early, and my first reed-eye, I think I lost one in less than a year, the very first reed-eye I had. And I never made it to 2 years with the other one.
Really?
That's how bad it was back then. But that was back 2002 or 2003.
And now,
So
what's the last time you kept reed-eye? How long did you keep them alive? Putting you on the spot.
It's hard to remember now. Like I haven't had reed-eye for quite a while now, but you're looking in that 7 to 9 year range. But for me to say specifically this number of years, I can't do that anymore. The only one I can do that for is the most recent, and that was that abdominalis.
Well, and I'd love to, Chris, I'm going to get with you on the side because as we share information like, the average life expectancy, if everything's going well, I'd love to try to figure out the expected age, like range, not, and it does depend on the seahorse and the circumstances and all that, but just to give, an average expected range of when they stop breeding. Because, when they stop breeding, of course, as Ray pointed out, mine haven't even started. But
I had some that never bred.
yeah, no, I know, but I just meant
We talked about it.
when they stop breeding, I feel like that's a good indication that they're retired, just in general. They're like our, us at 50 or 60, you know what I mean? Even though they're only 5 or 7 or whatever. So I would be interested to, maybe we'll do a post and share, different experiences with some of the pros and see how long each of them thinks averages
Like
are.
what's the seahorse in human years, like we do
Yeah,
with dogs?
right? We could. We could.
My own personal opinion is that if someone is responsible enough to do what the seahorses really need, um, they'll get in that 5 to 7 year range, no problem.
Right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that does depend on a ton of factors, like, what kind of tank you want. I was talking with my boss, and actually I'm going to point out that someone on Facebook said dull, and we ignored it. But I wanted to say my boss, and I'm coming around to actually get back to the conversation, but side convo, my boss accidentally clicked on one of our live streams. I think it was last week or the week before. And the next day at work, he was like, I'm so interested in seahorses. I think it's so freaking cool that you keep them. I want to know all about them. But I couldn't, like, it. He didn't say it was dull by all means, but he was like, you guys were talking about this stuff way beyond where I'm at as even, looking at and thinking about seahorses. And he was like,
Yeah.
I wish you guys showed your seahorses more and talked about the average keeper more. And so what I'm saying, in saying all that, I would love for you guys to give suggestions about what you want us to talk about. Because if we don't have any suggestions, we're going to just sit here and talk, right? We're going to answer any questions you have. We're here for the community. But if you guys say, I want this to be a topic, then we'll make it the topic. And if you, want more images or more, sharing of your seahorses on the channel, or us sharing more of ours. I've told you guys the reason I don't share much anymore is because my tank's so boring. And that's kind of getting back to what I was saying to Ray, is that we say somebody should be able to keep a seahorse to 5 to 7 years, no problem. But I really do think it depends on your goal for the tank too. Like, you got to weigh your, what does Dan always say, your risk tolerance level, right? What's more important to you? Is it more important to breed seahorses or keep them long term and have a beautiful seahorse only tank? Or, do you want a more active tank with other fish, other soft coral, things that will affect the health of the seahorse? You can do a sterile tank like mine, and I don't share my tank very much because I want them to breed, and it's a really boring tank, right? It's not the gorgeous macro tank that I used to post all the time that people were like, oh my gosh, that's so gorgeous. It's kind of boring because I don't have a lot of color in there. So the seahorses aren't super colorful. They're beautiful. They have markings that are gorgeous, but they're not bright yellow because there's no reason for them to be. It's a dull tank with just, the basics, because I want it to stay more sterile so that they're healthier and I can feed the way I want to feed, like, make sure they're getting so much nutrition, trying to fatten them up to give me fry, which would be different than someone just starting a tank and wanting a beautiful seahorse tank that lasts for 5 years. It's just different goals. And is my mic messing up again?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. It's this computer. I'll keep switching it back and forth, but I apologize. Is that better?
Well, now you turned off your camera or turned off the light.
Oh, shit. What did I do?
Wrong button.
Hang on.
We can't see you, but you do sound better.
Okay. Camera back on. And now on.
No, you don't sound better.
Okay.
And
Just
now the chat.
I think I messed up when I logged in. It gave me 3 options, and now 2 of them are only available. So I think it's probably going to keep happening. Sorry, guys. Old computer. Just tell me, Ray, say mic when my mic messes up, and I'll switch it again, and we'll be back to okay. But anyway, so I would love for input from you guys, whether it be while we're live or in comment section after we're live or in the Seahorse Whisperer group, on what you want covered. because we can get into deep conversation. And if you tell us in advance, like I can say, if we have a question now, I'm raising babies right now. What's the average size for 3-month-old babies? All of mine are different sizes. Is that normal? We're going to get ready to answer that question, but wouldn't it be better if that question had been asked on, Sunday? And so Cheryl and I and whoever else has raised babies could find images and videos and show
I
you guys.
actually have a video I could show now of that.
Do it. Do
Once
it.
I figure out the stuff. And then Tia says she's interested in bacteria and disease
And
or
quarantine.
which we do talk about sometimes. So,
But I love these suggestions because we can turn it into a full episode. Title that so future watchers can find it, search it and find that topic instead of trying to go through all the Wine Wednesdays when we often tend to ramble. Me tend to ramble. So I see you, I hear you, and I'm going to work out. I'll do a post first so that people can say, yeah, I'd like that topic, and here's my question about that topic. That way we can maybe get images together and videos together and have answers, better prepared so we can show you. Because that's what my boss was kind of saying is we sit and talk and it's great. It's a community thing. But if you're not part of the community and you're new, it's hard to jump in. And also, they'd like to see what we're talking about. I can tell you my tank's boring, but show a picture, So I'd like to do more. But Holly, did you need me to help you figure it out or you think you got it?
No, I think I got it. So I just hit the share and then it'll give me the choices of tabs and I've got the tab ready. So I think I can do it.
Do it.
But anyway, so I'll explain what this is. So what's coming up in my Facebook memories now is this is about the time that I raised 5 Erectus fry. It was the first batch of fry that I was able to get some survivors. I had 5 that made it. Sadie is one of those. So she just turned 3 years old this month. So I've had lots of videos popping up of the babies from back then. So I had a really cute one come up that I'll share with you. And you can see these ones. One of them is Sadie because she was the biggest one. But there were others in that batch that were smaller than her. And some of the littlest ones didn't make it. But this is kind of a cute video. Let's see if I can get it to play.
And then, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Holly.
All right. So this is, let's see.
You have to go over to the page and hit play.
I'm hitting play and it's not playing. Sharing this tab.
You have to go over to Facebook and hit play. Like in the tab that Facebook is in. Not in research.
Well, I am in that tab, but I think it's frozen.
Oh.
Let me refresh it and see what happens.
Okay.
I think I had it sitting there too long. There we go. But yeah, so this is Sadie carrying around one of her siblings. And I think the buddy system, I was saying. But I think they were 23 days old at this point. And you can see like she's filled out more than the other one. And look at the tiny, scrawny one come along.
Mm-hmm.
That one ended up not making it. And I ended up with 5 of them that made it. That was my first time that I got some babies to live. It was the second batch that was born. And then I met you guys and you helped me through raising the first batch. So thanks to Ray and Kelly and Cheryl and Dan. This was about the time I joined Wine Wednesday, actually, 3 years ago.
Awesome.
Hard to believe it was that long ago.
I know. I can't believe we've been doing this. And that's
but
and
yeah,
I'm still
so
answering
the question, they say they have ones that are 3 months old and they're different sizes. And I remember that too. I had that going on too. And that's partly my feeling on it is that there's some that aren't getting enough nutrition
Yeah.
for whatever reason. There's some that might not be as developed as the others. But if you can get them on to frozen food and they're eating and everything around that time, I found even though they're different sizes, most of them will end up making it at that point. At least they did for me.
So
At
Zen
this
Ginger,
age, no.
real quick, Zen Ginger, I see your question. I'm going to cover that in a minute because I disagree with Ray, and I'd be happy to do you a video. But hang on, let's go back to the topic we're talking about real quick. So I have a different answer regarding fry. I mean, the same answer, but I want to expand upon it. But Ray, go back to that question and give your answer. Do you think, or what do you think, if 3-month-old fry?
Yeah,
So I think it's going to vary from batch to batch even.
Okay.
And especially if it's a first batch that the adults are producing, they're not going to be as viable. They won't grow as fast. So at 3 months, they won't be as big as what maybe say the 10th batch that they have is going to be.
Absolutely agree with that. I'll tell you, out of my first batch of fry, before I met all the people, like Holly just said, I had one seahorse survive. And I named her after Cheryl, not the Cheryl you guys know, a different Cheryl from my reefing groups that's like this really strong, overcame cancer, awesome person, because that's how this seahorse lived. And she lived for me for years and years and years. But I just lucked out. She was just healthy. The rest of them didn't make it. So totally agree with what Ray just said, that if it's your first batch, do not beat yourself up. Do not think you're not doing well if they don't all make it, or if any of them don't make it, because the first batch is it. When we dive into breeding, we're going to dive into the fact that the more, like I said, in my tank, I want them to breed. So I'm enriching foods and giving, my pairs, I'm fattening them up. I'm giving them better settings and different circumstances so that they give me healthier fry. The older and the healthier the parents, the better the fry. That being said, it also goes into what Holly was saying about weaning onto frozen foods. And I'm going to say something really unpopular here, but it's the truth. A lot of times, if you talk to a commercial breeder, I know you're not, I know you're just a hobbyist, but if you talk to a commercial breeder, they're going to tell you that when you see the scrawny ones like Holly showed, those typically don't make it. And if you have a batch of 500 fry and you only have so much space to take care of them, a lot of commercial breeders will take out the scrawny little ones to give the fatter, bigger ones a better chance of success. At 3 months old, I hope you already have them weaned onto frozen foods. At 3 months, they should be. And if that's the case, obviously I wouldn't be calling any of them at 3 months old. I'm talking about when they're tiny. But at 3 months old, I can see them having different, because every seahorse, like Ray was saying, every seahorse is different. And, the strongest do survive, of course, but you can always take a scrawny, maybe not as scrawny as the ones, like, I can't speak scientifically about it, but I think that some, it's just like human babies, some just don't thrive. Some just don't have the immunity, have the immune system or whatever to successfully, survive, I guess.
Well, and I have ones at different sizes now at 3 years old. The ones that are in my tiki tank in here, the 5 that are in there now, they're all from the same batch. And there's different sizes. There's ones that are bigger than other ones, longer, different body shapes a little bit. They're all kind of individuals.
And males will also be bigger than females.
They tend to be bigger, but I have some big females. Like Sadie's a big female. Yes,
Yeah.
they're all, in my experience, just from the few batches I raised, they're all different. They're all individuals. But yeah, like in the fry video, I was showing the ones that are tiny, most likely won't make it. But at 3 months, most of them probably will if they're on frozen food.
Yep, if they're on frozen and you
Hi,
are,
Chris.
we got Chris Carey. But no, I agree with you. If you've got 7 3-month olds, not your first batch, they're all eating frozen foods, I would just stay seriously up on maintenance and water changes and keeping the water clean, and you should keep them all alive. It doesn't matter that they're different sizes. Chris, what's up? How are you? What's going on?
How's it going, guys?
Good. How
Thought
about
I'd better
you?
pop in and say good day. It's been a while.
Yeah, good to see you.
What's happening with
Yeah,
you?
likewise. Oh, heaps, lots going on. Basically, just forever playing catch up. Been moving a lot of tanks around and stuff, and yeah, it's all happening.
Looks like you're having winter. We're in the middle of summer, and there you are in winter.
Yeah, it's bloody cold here.
And
Swap.
where are you, Chris? You're not in the same spot, are you?
So I'm in Rosebud, in just outside of Melbourne, in Victoria, down south.
And are these personal projects you're working on, or?
A bit of both. So yeah, I'm working at Ocean Reef Aquaculture with Steve McLeod and Justine Gordon, and working with the sea dragons and seahorses and some other critters there. Yeah, so there's always plenty going on.
So jealous.
Working on a few personal projects as well.
Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just going to say I'm so jealous. In case you guys don't know who he's talking about, we've had Steve McLeod and what's her name? Jacqueline? Is that it?
Justine.
Justine. Sorry, I'm so bad with names. But they've been on the channel.
That's okay.
They've not only been on the channel for a Wine Wednesday, but they've been to some of our events virtually. They're amazing. They're the guys doing the Sea Dragons in Australia. And now we've got Chris with them, which is fan-freaking-tastic. I'm so excited. And it's cool to hear that you got some new projects going on. I'm curious, Chris, about your answers to the previous questions. What was the first one, you guys? It was
something about the lifespan of seahorses.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, what would you say the average lifespan of a seahorse is? Does it depend on species? And do you think there's an average span of not healthiness, but like, for instance, they stop breeding at some point and they kind of retire. And do you think they eat less and just do less once they're retired? Is kind of
does their behavior change as they get older, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, well, lifespan will vary significantly from species to species. I generally find, just from my observations, that generally the larger growing a species is, generally the longer they live. And for some reason, generally the cooler the water, the longer they live. So like if you've got a temperate species like the potbelly seahorse, Hippocampus abdominalis, they generally are a lot longer lived than some of their tropical counterparts. I actually recently saw it was a picture or a post or a video or something on a seahorse keeper over in New Zealand, and they were keeping potbellies over there, and they had a potbelly which was an ex-display animal from a public aquarium that opened, and it was like one of the original ones. The public aquarium closed in 2001, I believe. So that seahorse that they only just lost like a month ago or something must have been at least like 22 years old, but probably leaning towards like 23, 24 possibly. So very, very long-lived animal.
Must be winter where you are.
Yeah.
It's bloody cold.
Yeah.
God, I had a question. Hang on. So you were saying that it depends on the species. And, the cold water. That makes sense to me that they live longer, but do they, which actually I already know the answer to my question, because abdominalis get really big really fast. But if you took another, like, is there a comparison? Do they grow slower? Like, I know they live longer, but do they grow slower? Is that why they live longer? Did that make sense? I don't know if that made
The rate of growth you're looking at.
I would just think.
Yeah, it's probably comparing.
Go ahead.
It's probably like comparing apples and oranges. Like you've got different species that are designed for different parts of the world and stuff. And the potbellies they sort of buck the trend. They're quite a fast growing species. They grow large and they like their water cool. Yeah, your mileage will vary from species to species, really.
Gotcha. And I don't, if you did answer it, it was because I was looking at what Ray was saying, sorry, but do you think that their behavior changes as they get older? Like when they stop breeding, do they stop eating as much? Do they stop moving as much? That kind of thing?
Yeah, I've like in my experience, I've seen some like, you know, really big old seahorses at Seahorse World. Ones that for a long time there, I wasn't sure if they were still breeding or not. Like they were in with our breeders in a big tall breeding tank, and I wasn't sure for a long time if they were still breeding or not. But towards the end there, you know, I was positive that this really big old female that we had wasn't breeding anymore, and she was you could tell that she wasn't producing eggs anymore, and her belly, she was looking quite thin. It's not that she was like underfed or anything. She was getting fed, you know, heaps of food daily, but it was just a case of she'd stopped producing eggs. And I wouldn't say she wasn't like active anymore. She was still quite an active seahorse, but she just wasn't as active as she probably once was. But yeah, she got to a point where I don't know how old she was, but she was like enormous. She was like over 30 centimeters long. She had a very long tail, and she was just like a seahorse. And yeah, I know that, you know, she could have been there for like 15 plus years, perhaps even longer. So yeah,
Awesome.
they probably do slow down a little bit, but you know, if they're not producing eggs, or if it's like a really big old male that's like no longer getting pregnant or not getting pregnant as often, then they probably don't have as much energy to expend with those breeding behaviors, and they probably don't need to eat as much to keep up with their lifestyle.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but thank you for explaining it and describing it in detail. Actually, totally left field, guys, but my significant other was telling me the other day, he was reading something. Apparently, before the flood, meaning like the Noah's Ark and stuff, apparently seahorses were like this big and such. I would love to know if any scientists have found those skeletons for real. Because I can you imagine having a seahorse? Like
Giant
that big?
seahorse.
Oh God, that'd be so cool.
Imagine a horse-sized seahorse.
Right. Or
You
like,
could ride.
what's the mythology? Isn't there some Greek god or some god?
Well, yeah, Poseidon rides a
That's it.
seahorse, right?
That's it. Yep. So, Chris, any projects you can share with us, like anything new and exciting that we should be thinking about or seeing?
So recent times, I'm not doing it at the moment. We've sort of finished up, but there was an aquarium shop that had actually burned down here. They'd had a fire that went through the shop and wiped out more or less all of the livestock. And I was helping with the cleanup operation to clear out all the remaining stuff out of the shop and that, so they could bulldoze the building. Yeah, so like it was quite sad. You know, I really felt for the owner in that, so I reached out and wanted to sort of help however I could and stuff. And I ended up buying some tanks off him and some other bits and pieces to basically, like, he just wanted it sort of gone, sort of thing. So yeah, it worked out well. We got it all done and got it all taken care of, and I added a few more tanks to the collection, so worked out well.
Yeah, I know. Someday I hope you do come and share like I wish you were are you still thinking about the shrimp project, or is that kind of on the back burner?
Still on the back burner, but who knows what the future holds.
That's right. I'm just so excited that you're working with Steve. Oh God, that's so cool. And was it, I mean, I know like it's not that exciting for you because you'd already like been out and almost, you know, I know you didn't collect. I'm not trying to have anything like that, but you'd worked with sea dragons in the wild and stuff. But has it been a unique experience? Like, is it extremely different to take care of the sea dragons versus the seahorses, or pretty much the same?
The main difference between like Seahorse World, where I used to work, and Ocean Reef Aquaculture, where I'm working now, is that they do feed a lot of live foods to the dragons, like constantly going out diving, collecting fresh live mysid shrimp. So yeah, it's a bit of an ongoing challenge trying to keep the live food up to the sea dragons. The sea dragons, just like seahorses, will smash the food, and they will keep eating and eating and eating and eating and eating
Sure.
until they physically can't anymore. And so they're always hungry, and you kind of need to ration out the food so that you're not just so it's not just going straight through them as such.
So does it,
but,
just like we've talked about before with Seahorse Fry, that you want to make sure they're getting enough food, you want them well fed, but if you just keep dumping new baby Artemia in there, they eat it so fast that they don't even digest it, and it can literally come out live. So it's the same with sea dragons. So what's the, I mean,
yeah,
how do you determine,
it'd be much the same.
how do you determine how?
I guess it's just kind of like trial and error, but also like learning from experience and just knowing. But it's also, it's not always easy to go out and collect mysid shrimp. Like it is like fishing, so you never know how much you're going to get. So you do need to ration it out and go, okay, well, this is like 2 days worth of mysids, or it might be 3 days worth of mysids, or whatever, or we might not be able to get out and go collecting because of rough weather and stuff. So we've got to ration it out and make it last.
Gotcha. And how hard is it? Because I know as seahorse keepers, a lot of us want to and try to do exactly what you're saying. Like I know Holly tried to buy a bunch of live mysids and then, only feed here and there, but keeping the mysids alive is such a challenge because, they're what is it called when they eat each other and whatever. So is there any trick to that?
Cannibalistic. Yeah, so you can't. Well, it's a case of you need to keep going and collecting them, or buying them, and they're not going to last all that long. Like I'd be impressed if you kept them for more than a week.
Okay.
I mean, you can feed them with stuff like brine shrimp and stuff, but ultimately they won't last all that long, and they'll thin out pretty quick, even if you're not feeding them out. So you're probably better off feeding them out at a decent rate, or whatever, and actually getting the nutrition out of them.
Versus trying to store them and raise them. Yeah, I gotcha. And with that, is there anything that you particularly like as far as enriching mysids or enriching Artemia to feed the mysids, or do you not mess with that?
We try not to mess with it. Like when we go and collect them, they're fresh from the ocean. They're full of all the nutrition they need. They've got the right nutritional profile and stuff. It's just more if you're trying to make them last because you can't get out and collect more or whatever, then you sort of try and push it out as long as you can. But yeah, the waters down here are pretty cold at the moment, pretty savage. So
yeah.
It's just a matter of just trying to play the balancing act and try and make them last as long as they can. If you really need them to because of unfavorable conditions or whatever.
And you guys don't ever run into a circumstance where you run out, right? Like is there an alternative?
We've had times where we're running very extremely low or whatever, and sometimes where we go out on days where we probably normally wouldn't because we're out of food and we've got to go out and get some more for the sea dragons. Steve and Justine do all the diving side of stuff, so I'm probably pretty lucky. Worst case scenario, I just stand there in the boat and kind of keep an eye on them and feed out the airline and stuff. But it's definitely pretty rough going out there this time of year. The water's really, really freezing cold, and it's not nice diving this time of year, but it's not too bad. We get the job done.
And so with the mysids though, and I know you just said, keeping them past a week would be very difficult, but and I know you're on a huge level, not comparable to a hobbyist, but just in your general opinion, like what kind of tank would you keep mysids in? Like just an airline, or what would you have in a tank for mysids?
We've just got them in a really big plastic storage tank, so it might be, I don't know, maybe 2,000 liters, somewhere in that sort of ballpark, and it's just a sort of like a recirculating system with a mesh, so that the mysids don't just get sucked down the overflow and recirculated. That allows us to keep them all in there and net them out as needed, and feed them out as
That's
needed.
what Dan always said. He thought he would have done so much better in general if he would have been able to do recirculating systems, because that helps so much for sure. So that's cool. What else? What else is going on with you? What kind of keeping?
Not a great deal. I'm actually working a bit later today than normal. Like it's 11:15, so it's getting close to lunchtime. I'll have to finish up and go into work at 12. I'm going to stay back a little bit later today. We've got someone coming in to replace our hot water heater, or our hot water service, because the old one has had it and we need to put in a new one. So I'll be sticking around. The guy's coming around after hours, so I've got a bit of a late day today, but that's good. It's allowed me to come in and say good day to you guys.
Yes, and we love when you can stop in. And I was going to say, we don't want to interrupt your lunch for sure. We need to schedule a time where we can have you back in as a guest and really dive into stuff and have people be able to ask you questions and stuff. But so appreciative when you do jump in, because we miss you, and I love the hat, by the way. Very cool. Love the hat.
Cheers.
That's Seahorses. I love it. That needs to be on one of our when we share our cool things, Seahorse related.
Yeah, I need one of those for winter here.
Yeah, exactly. And I was going to say, Chris, I think you're the one. Didn't you message me and ask me about where the store is if people wanted to buy stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Didn't you? Maybe it was.
Yeah, I think I asked at one point, but I think Vincent asked recently.
Vincent, yeah.
I couldn't remember. Well, I will make sure to share that in the comment section when we're done. Guys, I still don't have the website done. I'm sorry. It's so much work. And with the life job going on, I won't go through the excuses. Bottom line is it's not done. But you can still get Seahorse gear at the spread shop. And I will share that link when we're done for sure. But love seeing your Seahorse gear, Chris. And yeah. Anything else? Anything else you wanted to share? I know you got to get to lunch, but just
not off the top of my head. Just thought I'd pop in and say good day. It's been a while, so
we miss you, and I will text you or message you and see if we can't get you in here for a longer session where we can quiz you and grill you and get all the good stuff. Holly, did you have anything? I totally overtook this. I'm sorry. Holly,
No. I was just gonna answer Zen Ginger when we're ready. She was asking us about tank setup, and I know all of us have tanks set up a different way. So I think Ray said in the comments, how he does his. So my first tank is a 55-gallon. It's an acrylic. It has a built-in overflow. And I have a sump that's 20 gallons. You'll find, though, when you get a sump, this is what I found out. Whatever it says it is not what it holds, because you're not going to have it completely full of water. Mm-hmm. So I think what it actually holds is 15 gallons. So that's the size of my sump. Then I have a 75-gallon glass tank that wasn't pre-drilled. And it has overflow boxes that I had to buy separately and plumb to the sump. And it has the same size of sump. It's a 20-gallon, which holds roughly 15 gallons of water. And then each of those sumps, I have a skimmer rated for 180 gallon in each of those. Or actually, I think it's 240. They're big. They're big skimmers. They're like 2 feet tall or something. Really big ones. Then I have my biomedia, which I like to use K1 because it's clean. I started with bio balls. and I still have those in my sumps, but I'd like to go completely K1. And then I've got my char chambers
Mm-hmm.
in both tanks. I've got 2 in the 75 gallon that are rated 40 gallon each, and I have 1 in the 55 gallon that I think is also a 40 gallon rated char
Mm-hmm.
chamber from Robert King. And other than that, it's all artificial decor. I get all my stuff online or from Petco, PetSmart. I use Ocean Aquaria for hitches. I use Amazon for hitches. Sometimes I'll even just be out looking at yard sales or whatever and see something that's Seahorse safe and cool and pick it up. Plastic plants, plastic
How do
everything.
you know if something's seahorse safe though? That's something I always ran into. I'd find something cute and I'd be like, because I did buy a freshwater like anemone. Chris, I know you have to go soon, but I have one more question for you after Holly's answer. But
Yeah, no stress.
Holly, so like, how do you determine? Because I had a freshwater fake plant disintegrate in a seahorse.
That's how.
Right. Oh, so
That's
you
what happens in the tank. No,
Oh.
if it's for a fish tank, I'll assume it's for a fish tank until it shows me it's not. And most of those things, like anything that's like, the plastic plant that might have metal in it or whatever, it takes a long time for that stuff to leach out. It's not going to like instantly poison anybody. So you can look at it and see, that's not doing well. But most stuff will say on it when you're buying it new, it'll say for salt water, it'll say not safe in
gotcha.
water. You can usually tell. I haven't run into any problems with
I
it
am
other than, like
overly
you said, the fresh water. What I've learned about some of the freshwater plants is they use like a metal stem, the ones that have the little stone base
yes.
things.
Yep.
And so what I do with those is I put glue over it.
That makes sense. Still, I'm overly cautious. That's something you guys should all know about me. I'm overly cautious about that stuff. And like even when I set up my fry tubs and Dan would say, just get window screen to cover this so that whatever. And I'd go to the store and there's 10 different window screens, one's for pets. And I'm like, wait, if it's for pets, does that mean it's like, does that have a material or a chemical on it? Or, I always worry about that stuff because I've had circumstances, not in seahorse tanks, but in like my discus tank where I added something and came home and they were all on the floor. I saved them, but with Prime, but it was something leaching something. And Zen Ginger, I just want to say to you, I get kind of what you're asking. I know you don't want somebody to say, this is how you have to do it. And I love that Holly shared how
everybody's different.
But I can do a conciser video that's not an hour long that just says, okay, so for your tank, here's your options. Here for your, here's your options, and kind of go through them and not take an hour. I'll have to work on that, but
It's tough because you have to decide what you want to do. It's going to be different if you have sand, or different if you have live rock, or it's all. So once you decide,
thing is, I've been working on a video that says, okay, so tank, this is what you need to know. Substrate, this is what you need to know. If you want it, do this. If you don't, do this. Pros and cons, and then go through it like that. So Zen Ginger, I am working on it. I'd be happy to, as you get ready and prepared, if the video's not done, message me and we can chit chat back and forth and I'll answer any questions, or in here, of course, when you get specific questions. But I would be happy to do a video showing you like each area. And Chris, I wanted to ask you, because K1's kind of the thing that everybody's using now, and I use it for sure, but I don't trust it 100%. Holly was saying something about she'd like to go strictly K1. And she also mentioned she also has the skimmers and the char chambers. So
and bio balls. I'm still using bio balls from
I know,
way
but
back
you said you
today.
wanted to get rid of them. And what I wanted to ask Chris is, I don't even think you guys use K1, do you?
Yeah, we've actually got heaps of K1
Oh.
setups. We didn't, but I've since retroactively fitted them into a lot of the setups. So, like at Ocean Reef Aquaculture, some of the sumps are enormous, like they're more than 1,000 litres of water. And they're just, yeah, heaps of ample space. And I've actually set up like a whole bunch of large barrels, like, 44-gallon drums, like big, large plastic barrels, and have K1 tumbling in those with an excessive amount of aeration and water circulation going through them. And it took a while for them to actually sort of mature and seed and that, but that was always the plan. And they are ticking along very well now. We weren't happy with how they were ticking along at first, but we upped the aeration to as much as we could, and we're quite happy with how they're tumbling along now. Now that they've matured and that the K1's tumbling along very, very well. The stuff that we're using isn't actually K1, but it's a very similar product, and it's a plastic biomedia that works in very much the same way. And we're doing it at such a large scale that I think the stuff we're using is cheaper than K1, so
Same difference.
it works really, really well.
And what I was getting at though, and I'm asking, not telling, because I don't really know, but in my case, on a much smaller scale, I use K1 in all the tanks, and it's usually like a 1 liter, 2 liter, whatever bottle with K1 airline tumbling. It's exactly smaller scale what you just described, but I've had too many circumstances where the oh my gosh, what's it called? The thing that pushes the air in.
Like the power goes out,
or the power goes out, or my I can't think of the word. What are they called? The things that push the air, the machine that controls it. Oh, air pump. Thank you. Duh. I just couldn't think of the word. Or my air pump will have been running for too many months, years, whatever, and it starts like not working the way it used to, and then all of a sudden I go over to my tank and the K1's not tumbling anymore. And Dan has described to me that that's not a case for crisis, because it's still working. It's just not working as efficiently as it would be if it was tumbling. It's still working like a very porous rock, right? It's still sitting there, but
it's all the surface area.
So my question is, would you trust either your personal or professional tanks with K1 as the only media? Or do you have secondary media? Like in Holly's case, she has the char chambers, which act as bio and mechanical and chemical media. And in my case, I would be afraid, because of my experiences, to have K1 be the only thing running my tank. And I know that's what Dan did. K1 and
well, with our setups, what I was doing was retroactively adding it. So I was increasing the filtration capacity of all of these sumps and systems. I'm not sure whether I would trust it to be the only form of filtration. I always believe that you can never have too much filtration. So the K1's good for biological filtration. It doesn't do anything for chemical filtration, like it doesn't remove anything from the water like carbon would. It doesn't mechanically filter the water. It's not taking particles out of the water as such. It's just just biologically breaking it down. So as long as you've got your mechanical filtration from the water, and so long as you've got maybe like we run like sponge filters in a lot of different tanks as well, which also adds a bit more bio. Like I'm always of the opinion that you can never have too much bio filtration. So having multiple different sources of it means that if your air pump was to fail, or your pump stops pumping it through or whatever, it means that you've got a little bit longer before things actually go horribly wrong. And so I always like having that sort of ace up your sleeve that things don't totally stop.
That's why.
I forgot to mention I use socks.
Filter socks.
Yep.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, and we'll go through that in the video, of course. And I know Zen Ginger, you know this, but just for anybody else watching, what we're kind of talking about is you've got, and what Chris was just describing is you've got mechanical filtration that removes, like socks, that removes like big stuff. Then you've got chemical filtration like Aquachar or the new Robert King char or GFO or whatever that I don't know how to describe it. What would you say? It removes stuff
It absorbs
it absorbs. Yeah.
the contaminants in the water, stuff like your copper, things like anything like that. It'll strip it out of the water.
Thank you, Chris. And then you've got the biofiltration, which, you know, in my opinion, is the most important, right? But you can do that in so many different ways. Like Holly's tank, she's got BioBalls in K1 for her biofiltration. She doesn't have any rock or any kind of anything like that in her tanks. In my case, I don't have the BioBalls, but I always keep rock that I have dried out, recycled, made sure it's not, you know, not live rock, but rock that I've cycled. I always keep rock in the tanks just as that backup, right? In many of my tanks, I have an algae scrubber. What is an algae scrubber considered? That's not biofiltration. What is that?
Yeah, I'd say that's bio. It's biologically playing its role. It's got a pretty big surface area on it, and it also has the added bonus of you know, sort of helping remove nitrates and stuff through the algae and stuff. So I guess it's part of the biological cycle.
So yeah, like, I mean, the bottom line is there's tons of different ways, but what's really important is making it, the kind of point I was getting to is K1's fantastic. As you can see, even commercial places and huge businesses are using it. And then hobbyist level, we're able to use it, which is really cool. And it is, I would absolutely recommend it for any tank you're setting up, especially Seahorses. But I just would say, don't let that be don't depend on it for everything, right? Because you got to have the skimmer. You need something like socks. And then I personally always make sure I have something else for bio, whether it be rock or skimmer, or I'm sorry, algae scrubber, or, you know, Rubble. And Cheryl has completely artificial tanks, but she has Rubble rock in her sump.
She uses rock too. That's what Ray uses, is rock also.
Yeah. So it's whatever, but I just, as Chris was saying, you can't have enough biofiltration. There's no way you can overdo it, right? I know reef keepers will say, well, with chemical filtration, you can pull out too much phosphate, or you can not pull out phosphate, but you can use too much chemical filtration and, you know, suck too much out of the tank. With bio, you just can't have too much. So I suggest going full out, make sure you have multiple methods of biofiltration, and I will cover that when I do the video, but just wanted to make sure we got that out. Chris, what do you guys talk about in the comment section? I missed all of it.
Just someone was asking whereabouts they can get seahorses and if there's a shortage of seahorses at the moment, because I haven't seen them in their local fish stores. I said that there's no seahorse shortage that I'm aware of, but it could just be that you know, shops are kind of, you know, just not stocking seahorses at the moment for whatever reason. You know, it will vary significantly from area to area, what shops like seahorses or don't like seahorses, or, you know, it might be something different where they haven't had them in a while and the shops go, oh, seahorses are on the list, let's get some of those.
Sure. So. Or they have tried and know that they can't keep them because of the way they're set up or whatnot. And Chris, I really don't know the answer to this. You can always tell me if I'm asking too many questions, but can people buy directly from Ocean Reef Aquaculture, or no? They have to go through.
They could, if they wanted to look up oceanreefaquaculture.com.au, the main website, just Google it. And if they wanted to reach out to Steve via email, they could buy directly from him. It would just depend on where they're based, and like we would only ship airport to airport unless they wanted to do a trip down to Rosebud and collect them in person. But yeah, it's one of those things. Seahorse World's the same. They only ship airport to airport. Australia's a big country, and you know, we don't offer door-to-door service.
Sure. It's a total side note, and I will message you on the side, but you guys all in the audience will go with me. I'm seriously, I've said this before, but I literally have started planning a trip to Australia. And when I come, Chris, awesome. I'm coming to visit you. Make me a bet, okay? Because I'm coming, and I'm gonna be like knocking at your door, and I'm gonna be like, take me diving, I want to go. And I'm not kidding, but I'll message you on the side about that. But I'm gonna come visit you, and we'll bring a camera and share some
Sounds
stuff.
good.
Great. But anyways, sorry, I'm just excited for that because I started planning it. It's a year out, guys, but I'm still like so freaking excited, and I'm hitting up all my people. I'm like, y'all got to take me and show me everything. I can't wait. Anna, what did Anna say?
Oh, Anna has a tip. She says she removed her socks and put in Red Sea cups and fills it with filter wool and changes it every 3 or 4 days. It's easier for her than the socks.
Now, what is a Red Sea cup? Never seen it. And what do you mean by filter wool? I know that sounds really stupid, but I
So
really don't know.
filter wool
Cloth,
like
like
Dacron
filter
or
cloth.
Wait, you both are talking. Chris first. Go ahead. What?
it's kind of like Dacron, like a sheet of like polyester matting. Kind of like what you would use as like filling in like a duvet or a quilt or
Said
something.
about 5 words that I don't know. Duvet, don't know what that means.
Okay, a doona, a quilt,
Filter floss. We call
filter
it.
floss, but just in a mat. So it comes on a roll, and you roll it out, and it's like you cut it into a sheet, and you place it down in the cup or in the above the return, and basically it will all get mechanically filtered out, and it's probably more cost effective than socks. Socks are convenient because they fill up and they do a really good job of filtering the water and everything, but they do require quite frequent maintenance, and it can be a pain in the butt. So sometimes it's just easier to get a bit of filter wool or whatever, and then let it fill up over a few days or a week or whatever, and then throw it out and cut a new piece and start over.
I love that you said that, Anna, because, and Chris explaining it further, because in the 40-gallon all-in-one, I hate the socks because I'm cheap and I don't want to have to buy that specific sock. And the dang company made it for this specific tank, made it to where it's like this particular shape, like it's square right here, and then it's round right here. So the sock,
you have to buy their socks.
Yes, you have to buy. I tried to buy some, Amazon socks.
Yeah, I do that.
Go around the sides, and I only have 2 of these socks. And I need to look, but I haven't even found where to purchase these exact socks again.
Oh, what a pain.
So I'm luckily I've got, instead of using 2 socks on both sides of the all-in-one, I have a UV sterilizer in one side at the first chamber, and then a sock only on one side. So I have 2, so I could swap them out, but it's still a pain in the butt. So I would
Do you know what I'd be doing, Kelly? If I was in your situation and they had the horseshoe U-shaped thing cut out, I would just go get a nice big hole saw drill bit, and I would just drill it out and make it round, and then make it so that anyone can fit.
See, and I saw Zen Ginger saying something earlier about, oh gosh, just hang on. She said, let me find it. Sorry guys. She said something.
Batting?
Yeah, where she said, when in doubt, you can always coat things in plastic dip or Krylon Fusion. Once dried, those are aquarium safe. She was talking about when I was saying I'm always worried about buying things, whether they're aquarium safe. But you guys are talking about stuff that takes effort. Okay. I put all my effort into the Seahorses, and then my freaking brat kids, and then my job. And I don't have any bolts left.
Well, I'll tell you,
my drills and like I don't have a husband that's mechanically inclined to drills. Like every sump that's ever been drilled or plumbed is me, and I suck at it. So I need simple. This is easy. Chris, I
haven't bought filter socks in years. Honestly, when I got my sumps, I went on Amazon and I got a bunch of filter socks. I think I have like 16. I think there's 16 of them. So I bought like 16 filter socks, and I change them out every day. And I keep a bucket in my laundry room. And when I get down to the last couple pairs of socks, because I have 2 tanks, so a sock for each tank.
Sure.
When I get down to the last pair of socks or so, then I put them in the washing machine with bleach.
Sure.
I've been doing this now. I've had them like 4 going on 5 years. And
Wow.
it's finally now getting to the point where the plastic edging is
Yep.
starting to split on some of them. So I'm going to have to buy new socks.
Well,
And I went on Amazon and they're not cheap. I don't
No.
remember them being that expensive when I bought these ones. Everything's gone up. I'm like,
Well,
really?
that's true. That's true about everything. But the thing is, that's what's most incredible to me is I'm not going to mention the company name or anything, but the company that built this particular all-in-one that I have, a 40-gallon all-in-one, now I'm required to get their particular socks. And I'll tell you, I haven't had this tank. It's not even been a year, has it, Holly? It's not even been a year, I don't think.
Maybe
And
right about that. Well, did
maybe
you
right about a year.
wait, did you have that tank when I sent you?
Aphrodite, yes.
Then she's turning 3 years old this year. So you've had it almost 3 years now.
I didn't get her newborn though.
No, but she was 6 months and you had the tank already, right?
Seems
So
incredible.
that's about
I
2
feel
and a
like
half
it's
years right there.
All right. Well,
You were
even
just
2
starting it, I
years,
think.
even 2 years, my point is within 2 years, the 2 socks that I have, one of them's falling apart. The bottom is thin, like you can tell, which I do, just for Claris or I can't think of the word, just to be true here, to be honest, I stick more Aquachart in my sock so that it goes through the sock, but it's also, there's something sitting in it that might have something to do with it, but the bottom is thinned out. And the sides where it meets the plastic have, there's holes where they've ripped down and stuff. And I'm like, this is not quality. I'm not happy. I need it to last forever and, put up with my abuses, but
everything's
something I recommend, like when you're in that situation and you like what we're talking about earlier, where you said, your air pump might die or whatever. It's really, really handy to keep spares on hand. Like I know not everyone has the funds or whatever to have, literally one of everything sitting there. But if you buy like a spare air pump, if you buy like an impeller for your pump, that way if that's the thing that breaks, you've got a spare on hand. Like if you just get a few bits and pieces, like some spares on hand, then if you do run into some trouble and it's the middle of the night or you can't go to the store or whatever, or it's a public holiday or however it all works out, you've got something on hand that can sort of get you back up and running. Comes in really handy.
I totally love that advice. I don't take it all the time. I need to do better at that because I am the person who has fry early in the morning and doesn't have Artemia ready and has to scramble. I'm the person who has the air pump go out, and I don't want to waste the battery pump because I need that for an emergency. So, but I think that's very good advice. Having a spare of everything is really smart. Cheryl says that all the time too.
I'd like to do that too.
Good job, Holly. Good about it.
I've had to switch stuff out. So yeah, it comes in handy when you have another one to throw in. Oh, and I almost forgot for Zen Ginger too. Another thing I did forget to mention is also consider your climate and how you're going to keep the tanks the right temperature. I use heaters and chillers because I have winter and summer here, so I need both. But if you keep the climate right in your house all the time, that works just however you're able to do that.
See, I'm so lucky that I can just use the temperature of the house. I feel very grateful for that. What's Anna saying? My tank and sump has 2 holes for socks. That's where the Red Sea brand cups fitted. They are plastic with slots in the bottom, so when you stuff with the floss, it filters through down out the slitted bottom. I'm going to check those out because that sounds like something that would be an easier fix for me. So I appreciate you mentioning it. And do you guys think that me sticking media in the sock is a really terrible idea? is it tearing my socks up? Or if I use even filter floss or whatever, is that a bad idea, Chris?
I mean, the media in your filter socks probably helps to wear through them quicker because you'll just get some additional wear and tear that you wouldn't have otherwise. But I think it's a good idea from the standpoint that, you know, it turns your filter sock into both mechanical filtration and chemical filtration. But you've just got to, keep in mind that you will probably go through them a bit quicker.
And the AquaChar actually acts as a biofiltration too. Go back and watch the AquaChar video if you want to learn more about that. Or you can ask them.
Full surface area.
But
I
yeah,
have a question for
Go
you
ahead.
about, Kelly, about what happens because you're putting the AquaChar into the sock. Are you losing some of the AquaChar that way, though?
No, it's in.
You have to scoop it out. Like how do you manage it in the sock?
It's in the baggie. It's
you put it in a baggie in the sock, so it's not just sitting loose in the sock.
It came in one. It was one of the smaller portions or whatnot.
So it's in a media bag, and then you put the media bag in the sock. Okay,
I should have said that. Thank you.
That makes sense. I'm picturing it loose in the sock. I'm like, wait a minute, that won't really. You're wasting it. You're going to lose it.
And that would be a mess. I guarantee.
Yeah.
It. I don't like messes. I like easy. And what did Zen Ginger say? Go ahead and read it, Holly.
It stays about 70 degrees in my house, so I hope that will be okay. It would be as long as it does stay. My heatless goldfish tank doesn't ever get over 74, and we have 2 generators because I already have like 14 other freshwater tanks. Yeah, so that sounds fine to me. You know, like we were saying, as long as it stays that temperature or you're able to keep it that temperature. I would say you might want to have some way in an emergency where the AC or heat goes out that you have a backup plan in mind, like whether it's frozen water bottles. I use that for cooling sometimes, or, you know, just something in case.
If you guys watch the video, if you guys have watched the video that I made a long time ago, it's very old, but I made about treating a seahorse with bacterial infection. That's exactly what happened. I was on vacation. My house sitter, seahorse keeper, sitter, whatever you want to call her, did not realize, because she was only coming once a day or twice a day, that my power had gone out and the tank shot up to like 82 degrees. And, you know, then when I actually got home, I wasn't on vacation. I'm lying. I'm thinking of 2 different stories. I was just at work, but I came home, the temp had shot up to 82 degrees, and I started trying to lower it really quickly. If that ever happens to you, don't lower it quickly, lower it slowly. But anyways, that's exactly what happened. So having a backup is good. But what do you guys think? Chris, what do you think about the controllers? I've really wanted to get into controllers for that reason, that if you're not home, or, you know, if you're not here and something happens, you can't even fix it, right? But I don't know enough about controllers to know if they can be, like, as with Zen Ginger, I have multiple tanks, not as many as I used to, but at one point I had like 14 tanks in my house, and I can't buy a controller for each of them. So what are your thoughts on controllers? And do you know, can they handle more than one tank?
Well, that's a fantastic question. I've heard that controllers are really great for automating things, but I'm probably the worst person to ask because I've never used a controller.
Okay.
I am the controller. I am the one that goes around and looks after all the tanks and does all the
So you've never had something fail while you were gone?
I've definitely had things fail while I've been gone, but just never had controllers. Like, there's been times like when I was at Seahorse World and stuff, where it would have been great to have controllers that would give like a notification or a text message or something when something stops or goes off or whatever. There probably would have been a lot of extra sleepless nights with those as well, but I think it would be very, very handy, especially if you've got one really crucial or, very, very important or critical tank that you want to monitor really closely for whatever reason. Whether that's you've got a lot of money worth of livestock in there, or just, the animals in there were critical to you, I think it's probably a good investment.
Sure. Yep. I need to do it myself. But I agree. I am the controller too, but I just, stuff happens when you're not home. It just does. But
Yeah.
the other point to make though is, Chris, the reason that you probably didn't lose much when those occurrences happened is because you had set up efficiently prior to make sure that even when something, crisis struck, it wasn't catastrophe, right? Because you had maybe not a controller in place, but you had, enough biofiltration and enough, of the correct setup that whatever. Go ahead, Holly.
A plan. He probably had a plan of what to do if something happened,
Right.
right?
Chris is like,
If not, you
no.
work it out through trial and error. Like you have enough things go wrong that you eventually learn how to deal with them very quickly.
Yeah. And I would say for Zen Ginger, I can say, okay, so she lives where it freezes. So knowing that, I would say you might want to have some heaters on hand because you might have to run them off the generator if it gets super cold in your house. Like my house gets down like into the 50s sometimes in winter. And that's why I have heaters. So if you get into that situation ever, you're able to run generators, so you're able to have electricity, have some heaters, and they actually make guards for the heaters too, so that the seahorses, won't hitch to them, or you can set them up so they can't get to them. I've done that. I use inline heaters where the heaters are actually outside the tank, like
Yep.
the incoming water flows through the heater and heats. So you can get those too. But I would say, knowing you live where it freezes, you might want to make that part of your backup plan.
And
Even
Chris,
if you have to move the seahorses temporarily to a smaller tank to keep them warm, just to do what you can to keep them alive.
absolutely great advice. And Chris, I know Dan's talked about this and Cheryl's talked about this, but I'm just curious about your thoughts. Isn't it better for a tank to get colder than hotter? Meaning, if the seahorses are going to have a temp change that's drastic or that's not where we want it to be.
Yeah, definitely better cooler than warmer. And with like temp swings, if for whatever reason it was in the middle of summer or whatever, and your tank gets too hot, people are more inclined to do something that will rapidly cool it, like put ice bricks or something in that will rapidly bring it down. You don't really want to rapidly bring it down. You want a very gradual change if possible, but it's a lot easier to slowly warm a tank up than it is to slowly cool it down.
Yeah.
But also, if it gets really, really cold, it's not really going to do too much in the grand scheme of things. Whereas if it gets really, really warm, the bacterial load will go, through the roof and will start, multiplying exponentially, and you can get bacterial infections with seahorses and can cause all other sorts of problems.
So for anybody who's on the hobbyist basic level like me, basically what happened in my case is the temp shot up. Therefore, the Vibrio that's ever present in all of our tanks multiplied quickly and overcame the seahorse's immune system. Maybe I made it more complicated by saying that, but basically what he's saying is anything in the tank that's bad is going to start growing faster with the hotter temperatures. But I do have a question, Chris. Is there a cutoff point in temperature going down cooler where the beneficial or the nitrifying bacteria suffers because it's too cold? Like I know that the Nitrobacter, I can't remember their names, Nitrobacter and the one that does ammonia and stuff, they have to have such temperatures, don't they? Or am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
They will slow down, like their metabolism will slow down, and they will, slow possibly even to a halt if you go down low enough. I'm not sure if freezing them would actually kill them, but obviously you don't want your seahorses to freeze.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm not sure. But I'm going to have to call it a day, guys. I've got to go into work. So been really good chatting with you guys, and I'll have to catch up with you guys again.
Tell Steve that you were hanging with us. Sorry if you're late getting back, and we want all of you guys to and have another guest today. soon. Thank you so much for joining us, Chris, and putting up with all of our questions. We miss you.
Nice to see
You're doing
you.
well.
Yeah, no worries. Likewise, guys. Always good to stay on, have a chat. But yeah, we'll have to chat another time. Sounds really good.
Happy
All right, guys. Have a good one, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Happy
Bye
Wednesday.
bye.
And guys, just to let you know, Ray had to go because he had an issue with the dog. I know if you've
Mhm.
joined us for previous weeks, he has a dog that has some problems going on. So we hope that he's okay and the dog is okay. And so cool that Chris joined us. And this has been such a fun one Wednesday. I'm not cutting us off yet unless Holly's ready. But I was going to say, because Holly's running the show, guys. I keep talking, but that's just me. She's running the show.
I'm doing the controls.
Yes, she can shut
Trying
me
to
up.
learn the controls, I should say.
She can mute me, you guys. You better be getting on her good side. But I was going to say lots of great questions this week, too. So cool that Holly was able to share, a video to kind of describe what she's talking about. Again, Holly's going to stay on top of me to make sure I do post, or Holly could even do the post about the topics that we said we want to talk about in future Wine Wednesdays. And we'll get any questions in, and then we can prepare some videos and photos to share during the stream. So sounds like we got a good plan. And anything you guys can think of that would make it not only better for you, but maybe more enticing to new people. Like, I just always worry that we get into too much technical stuff and new people are like, oh God, that sounds too crazy for me. And, or, like the stream is too niche, or not niche, clicky, like we're all a clique, we're all this little community and a newcomer doesn't feel welcome. So anything you guys can think of, because I'd love to grow the channel now that Holly's helping and taking the reins in some ways, help her grow the channel, help us grow the channel, and make it more accessible to everybody and better for everybody. So open to suggestions always. What else, Holly? What else we got?
And I was thinking, I have pictures, and I think long time ago, I think years ago on here, I shared a video of when I was setting up the grow out tank. Do you kind of remember that? I think I remember, and I could probably dig it up. It's a long time ago,
and to be completely
that
honest,
might help.
You sent me a bunch of short videos in order to make a longer video, and dun, I haven't gotten it done. I'm behind.
So you might still have that too. I'm sure I have it too somewhere, but yeah, that was a few years ago when I set up the grow out tank, which is since changed because, like we were talking about, things happen, and I had a tank literally crash. I had my first grow out tank, an 85 gallon, literally fall apart and water all over the floor and in winter. And it was a mess. And that's how I got the 75 gallon glass tank. I had to run out that day and buy a tank. I had, I want to say 12, like 5 or 6 inch seahorses in a 10 gallon tank waiting for me to come home with their new home. And then I had to wait 2 weeks for the overflow boxes to get here because the tank wasn't plumbed and I don't know how to drill a tank, and we don't have anybody in my area. You can see I'm in the woods, so it's not really an option here. So I had to order from Amazon, and they took weeks to get here.
Yep.
Had to use
I've not had that happen, but
a filter that I used to have from way back, and it was a mess.
I know. I've not had that happen. I've never had a tank fail on me, but I've had a sump leak because I plumbed it and didn't do a good job. So I've been there where it's just catastrophe and you got to figure it out. But no, I like that idea, Holly, is just going through our old videos and sharing stuff. Like, I'm going to go through mine and try to, maybe we're always here when it's open chat and we don't have a guest. We're always here for any questions. We'll talk about anything, but maybe when there's no questions, have a more focused, do
a week of setting up a tank, and everybody shares their pictures of when they were setting up their tank. stuff,
That's
pictures that might help somebody new. Okay, what's that? What does that do? And
yep,
because I remember, I mean, seahorses were my first saltwater fish.
yep.
I kept freshwater for years, and it was a little bit intimidating getting into saltwater. I remember because the equipment was different. There was different things like what's a skimmer,
Mhm.
what's a suck. There was stuff that I never used with the freshwater tanks that I wasn't used to that I had to study and figure out. And then, when it came setting it up, I don't have any friends that do saltwater tanks. So it was just me with a book back then because there wasn't even internet when I started. So
Right, right.
I'm like, what the heck is this?
But eventually you
How
found
do
us,
I
and that helped, and that's the point. I want to make sure this
Mhm.
channel helps. And Holly, can you put up a ways back? Fish Fam Links made a comment because we're on Fish Fam Links too. So we're being advertised in different places. So what I'm saying is, I just want to make sure that when somebody new comes, like we could have episodes where we dive into stuff that would affect reef keepers too, like
Oh
just
yeah,
the
I
basic.
see this. So
Yes,
yeah,
that's
fish
good enough.
fan here
That's
too.
good enough. Just saying that Fish Fam Links has a link for us on their page, which is huge, and we
Which
appreciate it.
we'll just
And so I'm just saying, let's think of ways that we can do episodes where, I mean, we're always here to answer any specific questions, but let's have ways, where we can have topics that might appeal to reef keepers too, where we're talking about skimmers and why we need an overrated skimmer and what's the benefits and how to tune it in and stuff like that. Have my boss, as I told you guys, he said, I wanted to support you, but I couldn't, I just was lost. We could, sometimes go into the basics again, not just, hey, how do you set up a tank, this many gallons, but literally like, why are captive bred seahorses better? Why is that what you would want to buy? Showing our beautiful captive bred seahorses, and just, for somebody who doesn't even know they're interested in keeping seahorses yet, but just checks out the channel, maybe it'd be appealing to them. Maybe they'd end up a seahorse.
There we go. There's the link.
Yeah, there we
Thank
go.
you, Ginger. I was looking for the link and I didn't see it in the chat, so thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. So anyways, just open to suggestions, guys, because I love you guys. I love our regulars. I'm cool with just sitting here and chatting with you guys all night long. But, if we want to grow and help other people and get other people involved, that's, we need suggestions on how to be better at that.
Yeah, what
And
does
I've got
everybody
Holly
want
helping.
to see?
What'd you say?
I said, what does everybody want to see?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then we'll
we all
know.
night, but what do you guys want is what we want to know. And I'm about to ask my boss when I go in, I'm gonna be like, what would have made you stay? I'm curious. But anyway. All right. So
Yeah,
Holly,
because I have friends. I have a friend that's interested in watching, that kind of started watching a little bit, and he doesn't keep seahorses. He just came to visit me and saw them and thought they were cool.
yeah,
And
right.
now he's just interested in them. Oh, that's really interesting. Like just being able to, what kinds they are, where do they come from, where do they live, what are they doing right now? What is that thing they're doing? Just
That'd be
and
a fun one.
about
I would
them.
love for us to do, and I already have tons of videos and could make more, like just little clips. In fact, we should all do that.
Their
Make little clips of
behavior and stuff.
seahorses doing funny stuff,
Yeah,
like wrestling each other, choking each other, courting,
yeah.
when they dance for you and they beg
Like
for
my
food.
babies I showed, that was one was dragging
Yes,
its sibling
exactly.
around by the neck.
Exactly. In fact, I know that I think someone asked us to cover bacterial and diseases, and we will, but that's like a little bit deeper of a topic. So let's focus next week on cute, cool things that seahorses do, because that would be something that anybody would want to watch and get into. So
Yeah,
everybody, we'll do a post so that even if behaviors, that's it. We're doing
Yeah.
behaviors next week. I'll do a post saying Seahorse behaviors. I'll ask you guys in the Facebook group, Seahorse Whisperer group, to post any videos or pictures you want shared during the stream, or you're welcome to join us. You know that. And I'll collect some. Holly will collect some. Holly will stay on top of me to make sure it gets done. We'll have a good behavior episode next week.
Yeah, that sounds fun too.
All right. So, is there Miss Captain of the Wine Wednesday? Is there anything else? Because I'm not closing this, but I am getting tired. So,
I don't think I have anything. Does anyone else have any other questions they want to ask before we go, or anything else they want to say?
and of course, it's delayed, so we won't see it until it's done.
Yeah.
Still.
Give it a minute maybe, but no, all my seahorses are doing well right now, so I don't have too much to talk about. You know, like I said, Sadie's eating. She's eating everywhere, all over the She's like, Mom, there's an empty dish over here. You better put something in this one.
Yep.
But once I know there's something in it, then I'm going to go back and finish what's over here.
Spoiled brats. It sounds like my teenage actual daughter.
Yeah.
I would say too that I forgot to mention my seahorses are doing okay too. Not okay, great too, but they're playing with me. They court constantly, and they spin, and I'm like, where's the egg exchange? Let me see it. Let me see it. And I don't know if my females are just like, can females be impotent? I don't think they can. I think that anyways, I don't know if they just aren't.
I don't know. I mean, in my grow out tank, I have the one boy and all those girls, but he doesn't swim up. He's doing like Dandy. I'm wondering if he's got a condition similar to Dandy, or if he's just lazy and doesn't want to swim. I don't know. But all the ladies are trying to get him
doing the nod,
and he'll sit next to him and flirt and go through all the motions, but then he like lays there like, okay, put the eggs in here. You know, he's not putting out the effort. And meanwhile, they're nodding, like you said, and swimming up and trying to lure him. And I don't know.
I'm sitting here thinking
it's not going to happen in that take.
I thought of so many comments I can make that I'm not going to make because this is supposed to be a family friendly show, but deadbeat something there. And yeah, mine swim up. They no conditions. They swim up. I'll do a video for next week. It'll be something we share. But I keep thinking yes, and then just no. It's so frustrating. So anybody out there who's going through it, you see my old videos. They had fry like nothing. Dan says all the time, you put 2 erectus in a tank, they're gonna be like in the back of a Volkswagen. You're gonna have fry, and yet here I am wanting them and not getting. It just happens.
No, I had one that did, and none of my other males ever did.
Yeah.
Only one male did. But Ray said he had many that didn't have fry either. So
yeah, but it's frustrating for me because I've had it from 3 different places that I completely trust.
Yeah.
Vincent and Ocean Rider, and nothing, man. I mean, they just nothing. It's so crazy. Which Vincent's might need a little more time. You know, they might not, but they're big. I'll show you guys a video next week, and we can dive into that. But everybody's saying see you later, and I do. So Holly, you say it.
So cheers. Thank you everyone
Wednesday.
for coming. Happy Wine Wednesday, and we'll see you all next week.
Cheers. You got to end it, Holly.